Allison Dowda from A Double Dose of Dowda, and I am excited to talk to you today about peer feedback in your classrooms. So I was reading the book 180 Days by Kelly Gallagher and Penny Kittle. I was doing this with some English teachers in my building as part of a book study. One thing that I got from that book that I really loved and I think about all the time is when he talks about how he used writing conferences with his students. So he would have students in groups, and they would be in the same groups with the same groups of students for a longer amount of time. And whenever they were reviewing each other's work, they had this process and procedure that they would repeat every time. And I love processes and procedures, so this is something that was very near and dear to my own heart. So the idea is that whenever students were in their writing conference groups, so maybe it was them and 3 or 4 other students, that they would bring copies of their writing whenever they would get together. And they had to have a copy for each student in their group. At the top of each copy of their writing, they had to write what type of feedback they wanted their peers to give them. It was either going to be bless, or address, or press. Those were the 3 words that they could write at the top. If they wrote bless, that meant that they were just looking for some positive interaction with their peers, somebody to tell them that they did a good job on X, Y, and Z for their writing. They were not looking for anything constructive at that time. They were just looking to hear the good things that they were doing. There's nothing wrong with that. From time to time, even as teachers, we just need a win. We just want to hear something that we are doing well. So, bless was one option that they had to write at the tops of their papers. The second option was the word address. Now, if they wrote address, they needed to write something else also. Because if they wrote address, that meant there is something in particular that they want their peers to give them feedback on one area. So in that case, they might have written, in this case it was writing, so maybe they would write address conclusion paragraph, or address power quoting, or address thesis statement. Whatever it was, they would pick 1 or 2 areas that they specifically wanted feedback from their peers. They were looking for that one area. And that's what students would provide for them. And then the last word that they could write, the last type of feedback that they could ask for was press. So if they wrote press, that meant everything was wide open, anything was fair game. Students can give feedback and give some constructive criticism in any area that they noticed or that they thought might help improve the student's writing. So in these cases, the students would get copies of each person's writing, and then they would just write their feedback based on what sort of feedback they wanted on the student's writing and give it back to them. I loved this idea so much, and it got my brain working in a couple of different directions. One was, for me, I didn't teach ELA as much in my years in the classroom. Instead, I taught math. That was the focus of what I usually did. And so in this case, though, I thought, how great would that be if I had done that with math tasks for my students? So if they completed a math task, one of those multi-step things that kids think that teachers assign because we hate them when we don't really, of course, but just those big multi-step papers, and I would have students put them on chart paper usually just to make it a little more fun. And so if I had students swap those papers and write those things across the top, bless, address, press, how great would that have been for them to get feedback from their peers? Because often on those days, I found myself jumping all around the classroom, playing whack-a-mole, as I call it, when you're having to go to every student or every group of students and it wears you out at the end of the day. How great would it have been to have that procedure in place where they write bless, address, or press at the top? And so you can do that in different subject areas, and it can look different ways. So that was one thought that I had, was I think that would be great to do in any classroom. The second thought that I had was I read this book as an instructional coach. So for me, this changed my world as an instructional coach, because what it did was it gave me kind of a procedure whenever teachers want feedback from me. So when I go into a meeting with teachers and they want feedback from me, you know, as an instructional coach, that can be a scary request from a teacher, and you never know exactly what they are looking for. So I'd like to have conversations with teachers in advance to know when I come in and observe, and when we have our conversation afterwards, are you looking to be blessed, to have something addressed, or do you want to be pressed? I'm going to make some follow-up videos to come along with this. If you are an instructional coach and you want to hear more about what bless, address, and press look like as an instructional coach with teachers, and when those are ready, they will be posted in the description to this video as well. So I hope that this has been helpful for you to hear about bless, address, and press, how we can use that for peer feedback among students, and also for instructional coaches working with teachers, how we can use this same thing. As always, thanks for watching, and we would love for you to subscribe to our channel. Thanks so much.